Penn State's been losing games because of the middle eight and free throws. And not free throws the way, just give me a shot here to explain what's going on. The middle eight, let's start with that. Penn State has had leads against Minnesota by 10 and Washington by 13. And in the final 4 minutes of the first half, those leads have been whittled down each time to 4. So the opposition goes into the locker room feeling pretty good about itself. They've climbed back into the game and so forth. Now, the opening 4 minutes of the second half, can you resurrect yourself and push it back out again, or do they continue their momentum and putting pressure on you? And what's happened is they've cut it down to 4 in that first 4 minute segment, and they've kept the pressure on in the opening 4 of the second half instead of Penn State opening up and making 4, 10, making 10, 15, and so forth. So the middle eight and the ability to close the first half and then garner momentum to start the second half has set up how games have played out. Now let's get to free throw shooting. Penn State is 82% this season in the final 4 minutes of close games at the free throw line. Really good. Here's the issue. Think of all the close games they've had. And I keep this stat. This is not a stat you're going to find in the game notes or anything like that. I personally keep the stat. And I keep track of it from day one all the way through. All these close games Penn State's played, they only have 44 free throw attempts in the final 4 minutes with the game on the line. I'm not talking about the close games. Penn State's played all these close games, right? They're only averaging 4 free throw attempts in the final 4 minutes of close games. Now, some of it is they're not getting fouled. Some of it is they're going in there not getting fouled and making a bad decision. And some of it is they are getting fouled and that they're not getting to the line. Okay? It's like all three things. You have closers on this team. DeMarco Dunn's 91%. He's missed 3 all season. Ace Baldwin leads the Big Ten at 93%. He's your point guard. Zach Hicks has now hit, I think, something like 37 of his last 41 or something like that at the free throw line. He's now up at 80%. You have closers on this team. Yet the closers aren't getting a sniff of the free throw line when they can put the game away. And I find, again, sometimes it's a fact that you're not playing well and you turn it over. No free throw. Sometimes you go in there, they don't foul you, you make a bad play, or you have to kick it out and get another shot and you miss it. Other times they've gone in there and they have been fouled and they haven't gone to the line. Right? I find that part has baffled me. The few number of free throw attempts Penn State's had in the final 4 minutes of games, because they've got guys that can hit free throws. And I mean, it's not as if you're a team that is shooting in the 60s in the final 4 minutes and it's killing you closing games, where it's an adventure every time you go to the free throw line and you're like, okay. They've got the right guys to close games. And when they've been in that spot, Penn State is 82% at the line. They're 8 points higher at the line in the final 4 minutes compared to their season number. And those stats have combined the middle 8, where they've taken some control in the first half. And the baffling part is Penn State has been, up until the streak, a better second half scoring team than first half scoring team. But in this streak, they have been a better first half scoring team. But the trouble starts in the final 4 minutes. You're up 13. Now it becomes 4. You want to take 13, make it 15, make it 20. Okay? You're up 10. You want to make 10-15 to close the half. Instead, 10 becomes 4. Okay? And then, can you blunt their momentum and recapture it yourself at the start of the second half? Penn State hasn't done that. So the middle 8 has hurt them. And the lack of free throw attempts in the final 4 minutes when the game has been on the line. Because, look, 9 times out of 10, you're in the bonus at that point. Minimum bonus. Not maybe you may not be in the double bonus. You could be, but at minimum, you're in the bonus. And they're not getting to the free throw line. And it's not as if they're not trying to get the ball into the lane. So those are two things that I look at. Now, there are other things, keeping the ball in front of them defensively. That's a big one for obvious reasons. And we've talked about that before. But I just talked about 2 areas nobody talks about. I haven't heard anybody talk about it. Hear anybody talk about these things? No, of course not. Right? It's too simple to say whether somebody should call a timeout at the end. I look at the totality of the game. How did you get to the end? How did you get to the end? See, I'm a big believer that, like, football 60 minutes, there could be, on play 7, could be a play where you sit back and go, oh, boy.
Sure.
All right? And I'm a big believer in basketball that when you break the game down, you can win a game or lose a game in 3 areas. You can win the game in the first half. You can lose the game in the first half. Things I don't hear people sitting around there where they're talking around the table about, like, sports, right? Or because I've done so many games in my life. You know, you can then win a game before the under 8 in the second half. You can also lose the game. And obviously, the one that everybody concentrates on, which is the most obvious one, you can win or lose the game at the end. That's why when we're doing the game, Dick and I always talk about, here it is, the pivotal part of the game. It's the under 12 to the under 8. Because once you're done with the under 8, it tells you what position you are in. Do you really have a shot realistically? Are you in position to overtake them? Or are you the team that's in front and you're in a position to close? Because now there's 7.5 minutes to go. And that's why where you are at the under 12 versus the under 8, when you're done with it, that's why it's the pivotal part of the game. And Penn State has to do a better job in the middle 8. And then when they're in a position to win, they need to get opportunities at the free throw line. And some of it is their doing. And some of that is sometimes I look at it and go, looked like contact to me there. And there have been times where I've looked at a replay. I've looked at a replay on something, and I thought maybe there was contact. And I looked at the replay, and there wasn't. So I'm not being unfair here. All right, this is not one of those, oh, he's complaining about officiating. No, there have been a couple of times earlier. It was on Saturday, for example. Ace went in there, and Ace was like, oh, you know. And we looked at the replay, and we're like, he wasn't fouled. We're fair. We're fair about that. But I have been in times where I've looked at it and went, geez, you know, there's a lot of contact in there. And the replay then justifies, like, hey, you're right, there was a lot of contact in there. Why wasn't something called? When you can get to the free throw line, which if you're the team behind, it gives you a chance to get some free points with the clock stopped. Or if you're the team ahead, you can create more of a margin. And those are 2 areas, because they've had so many close games. Why haven't they won more when it's been that close? And it's more than Mike calling a timeout. Right? You can debate that all you want, and you're neither right nor wrong. Okay? Okay? If you think Mike should call a timeout, I'm not going to tell you you're wrong. If you think Mike should play on like he's been playing on, you're not wrong there either. It's 6 and 1/2 dozen of the other, depending on the personnel you have out there. I would think if he has a freshman point guard out there, right, he probably calls a timeout and sets something, right? Because it's based on your personnel and what they're capable of doing in the moment. Okay? Yeah, we've got the play call. We know what we want to call, and you go for it, and you get them going back on their heels or whatever. Or there are times you sit back and go, you know what, we're not organized enough, call timeout. Okay. But how do you get to that play? That's the part that nobody seems to want to talk about. How do you get to that play? They want to talk about losing locker rooms and things like that. You say, well, I'm around it every day. It's, sorry, but you might not be right there. But that's okay. You're not there every day. I got that. You know, spouting off your opinion like you know it as a fact. Now that's a problem, right? Guessing and speculating, that's fine because you're openly guessing. It's fine. You're not there every day.